Hello and welcome to the 97th gathering of the Adventure Party on this, the 13th of January, 2019. I'm your party leader, Brad Ludwig. We ask that you peace tie your swords, holster your blasters, and be ready to recall the games you have played during the holidays as we gather at the meeting table. We've been gone a while, haven't we?
We have. I was going to light a memorial candle for it.
Yeah, life kind of got in the way, and choices had to be made. And one of those choices was to we had to put this on the back burner. And I apologize for that, but I hate to say sorry, not sorry, but it had to be done, and I do kind of feel bad about it. There's not a whole lot that could be done. So there you go. If you actually have watched before and you remember what the hell we did, we're shaking off the cobwebs and doing the same. We do a roundtable game review that Glenn spearheads here, and then we just kind of do our thing talking about games. And this particular time, we're going to talk about games that we played over the holidays to keep our kind of hands in the world of gaming. And that's just a part of who we are. We game, and that's it. So how are you doing, Glenn?
I'm all right. Cold, but all right.
You're cold?
I'm cold.
Are you coming down with a cold that you're feeling cold, or?
I've had a cold all weekend.
Yeah.
I missed the Yule Ball because of it. So.
Oh no.
That's
what?
All right. That's all right.
Yeah, my son Alex had to be kept home on Friday because he had a bit of a fever. So he's been recuperating from, thankfully, a mild head and chest cold. So it hasn't seemed to pick up in intensity. It's kind of slowly tapered off. So I'm grateful for that. Now we just have to wait for the rest of the family to get it, and we can be done with hopefully our one winter illness. So but a lot of that going around. Well, to start things off, Glenn, you have a game to discuss, which I don't think I've ever played before, and that is called.
It's new this year, so.
Well, that would explain that.
Actually, not this year. I'm sorry, it's been so long. No, it's new last year. And it was in short supply for quite a while too. But I'm talking about The Mind. This is 2 to 4 players. Plays in 15 minutes or less generally, and it retails for about $15. This game is interesting. So the entire game is made up of a deck of cards numbered from 1 to 100, and there's a couple other cards you can use. You have cards to mark your lives, and you have cards for what are called shuriken, and I'll play those in a moment. But what you're trying to do in The Mind is you are collectively, as a group, cooperatively, trying to play cards from your hand in proper numeric order. It doesn't have to be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but you want to go from lowest to highest. So if I have an 11 and a 16 and you have a 12 and a 94, you want to play those in the proper order, which sounds really simple. Just, if you know what numbers are, you can do this. Trick is, start of the game, we're going to touch hands or heads or whatever you want to do so we can link our minds together, all of us players in the game. With the enemy dealt in the first round, 1 card each. We can then look at our card, but we can't say anything about it. I can't tell you what I have. I can't in any way indicate that I have a low card or a high card. I just have to try to figure out if the card I'm holding in my hand is lower than everyone else's card. If I think it is, I play it face up on the table. If I'm correct, then whoever thinks they have the second lowest card will play their card. If I'm wrong, whoever has a card lower than mine plays theirs, and we lose one of our lives. lose all of our lives, we lose the game. So say we make it through the first round. Great. Round 2. Let's link our minds again. Now we get 2 cards each.
Oh.
Again, you can't talk. You can't communicate in any way. You have to play these cards in the proper ascending order. This goes on, depending on if it was the 2 of us playing, Brad, we would play 12 rounds, which means in the final round, we'll each have 12 cards.
Oof.
And we try to play those in the proper ascending order. Now, on some levels, when you complete them, you'll get bonuses. You complete, I believe it's level 3, you gain a life. Complete level 2, you get a shuriken. Now, the shuriken are used to kind of give you a little bit of help. You can use a shuriken where each player then can discard their lowest card face up, which gives everyone some information and gets you closer to completing the level. However, these are limited, so we can't just play them all the time. And even if we had 2 or 3, that's not doing a lot of good in a later round. We have 9 or 10 cards. Like, great. Now I only have to figure out the next 7 cards that I have in my hand if they're lower than what you have. And the game ends up a lot of times people staring at each other, no one wanting to play their card because they're thinking, well, there's no way they have a card higher. I had one where I had 98. We were on round 2. Each had 2 cards. There's 3 of us playing. We played all but 2 cards, and I'm holding my 98 going, in my head, I'm like, there's no way this person has a higher card than me. I mean, the odds are so against it. So 1 to 100 in the deck, there's only 2 cards higher than my card. And we sit there and stare at each other. And we stare at each other. And we stare at each other. And no one's playing their card. And finally, I just fine, I will play my card. So it's going to screw us up. We're going to lose a life. I play my card. And then they lay down number 100. So I'm like, well, all right. So at least in that case, I cracked because obviously that other person wasn't going to. Because if you have 100, you have the highest card.
Yep.
But there's also a trick too, is that people sometimes think it's the, it's round 3. We each get 3 cards. I'm dealt a 4. That's going to be the lowest card. They just play it really fast. Before everyone even has a chance to look at their cards. It's like, you idiot, I had a 2. And, it's the odds are against it, but generally, you always want to at least give a few seconds before anyone plays cards. It's just super fun. There's also the extra challenge. If you want to make it harder, because it's so easy as it is.
Yeah.
The extreme mode, you play your cards face down, and you don't look at them until the end of the level, and you lose a life for every card that's played out of order.
Wow.
I've never made it past round 2.
Yeah, I
bet. The extreme mode. I have made it in a 2-player game. I have made it through round 9, and then we lost on round 10.
Oof.
But that took a lot of playthroughs to get there. It's just a super interesting, fun game because it's these awkward silences, but it's still fun. It's like a fun awkward silence because you're all kind of staring at each other, waiting for someone to make that first move. And then it's not just the first move, it's the second move and the third and the fourth and the fifth, and you're waiting for all of them. So it's so addictive. You start playing it and you're like, oh my gosh, this seems like it shouldn't be fun, but it is fun, even though it's frustrating. It's super frustrating. And you get so mad when someone doesn't play their 34 when it's like, come on. You had a 34. Why aren't you playing your 34? My next card is 67. 34 is pretty low. If we're all waiting around for someone to play a card and you have a 34, for God's sakes, play it. But then the thing is you're going to screw up the next card because you're going to have that 45 and you think that no one has a lower card. Or you might have that 7, think it's the lowest one. You play it before the person who's a 5 can play theirs. So it just is awesome. And you can fit it in anywhere. Because, seriously, generally 10, 15 minutes, sometimes longer if you have a lot of people who are just super reluctant to play into their cards because no one wants to get anything wrong. But it's just been a blast. I think it's one of the better games of 2018. And it's so simple, yet so frustratingly awesome.
No, that's That's cool, and it really seems like you'd want to play with people that you know really well if you're looking to win.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
And
harder to play with people you don't know. But the thing is, you're still not supposed to give any kind of hints. So that's the trick is when you're playing with people you know, is you want to. I mean, if you just notice, if you can notice tells that they're doing unconsciously, that's different.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want to have any kind of, having any kind of like secret, way of like nods or winks or movements. That's basically cheating.
Yep. Now, I was thinking of like a game that we'll be talking about later, like code words.
Yeah.
And code words.
Names.
Code names. I'm sorry. God.
That's all right.
My brain is cooked today. Code names, the original code names, to be more precise, because there are a number of different versions now. It really helps if you have a common background with other people where you can give certain words that you know or you have a strong feeling they will kind of catch on, what you're looking for. Granted, you can't give tells here, like you said. But, and of course I haven't played it yet, so, but I just, for some reason, my gut tells me if you've been friends with people for a while and you're playing the game, it might be a little bit easier.
Yeah.
That could be complete rubbish too, so it is what it is. All right. And you said the mind, 2 to 4 people.
Yep.
Approximately 15 minutes to play.
Yep.
I'm guessing your first time out is going to be a lot longer.
Or shorter.
Or, well, you know what? You're not wrong there.
I've played with people where they lose a life on the first turn in round 1, and then they lose a life in round 2, and then they lose a life and they're done by round 3.
It looked like the card had. Do you start with 3 lives and you can go up to a maximum of 5?
I believe it's 1 life per player. So a 2-player game you start with 2. 3-player game you start with 3. 4-player game you start with 4.
Okay, gotcha. $15.
Yep.
That's extremely reasonable.
Yeah.
So, all right. Thank you for telling us about the mind.
Absolutely, Brad.
I would like to tell folks about Die Hard Dice.
Please do.
During this hiatus, I had to order some dice. And guess who I ordered from? It's rhetorical. dieharddice.com is where I went. And Todd and his wife and Chris, who's one of their workers who I've managed to have a message with. Sorry, I got distracted with something that popped up on my computer. Great people. Took care of me immediately and got me dice within 2 to 3 days of ordering. And they're out of Utah. So, I mean, there's a ridiculously quick turnaround. And I ordered it like probably 2 weeks before Christmas. And I still got it in a timely fashion. And they're doing an incredible amount of business. I know Board Game Barrister, where you work, you get stuff through Die Hard Dice.
Oh, we do. Oh my gosh, we sold so much over Christmas.
Excellent. I'm sure Todd appreciated that.
$7,000.
Damn.
So a lot of metal dice, and I almost ran out of dice trays. Their classical dice trays are great, and they're one that turned out super popular is they make a dice coffin.
What? Oh, see,
Yep.
I haven't looked at it in like 3 weeks. So of course,
Yeah.
Here we go. dieharddice.com. I'm going to share this with everybody so you can take a look. here's the website. They have high quality dice. Todd is a firm believer in full randomness. So like his poly dice don't have air bubbles inside of them. He makes sure that he has top-notch quality material, and his metal dice are solid. You could put a D20 in a slingshot and do some serious damage. I'm not even joking around. If I need, especially dice trays, that's one of the main things that I got. I'm doing a live play podcast. I just started recording that for work. And I got everybody dice trays, and I got everybody their own set of D10s for playing. So, yeah, well worth it. Can't recommend it enough. dieharddice.com. Use the... Showing everybody my notes here. Use the coupon code Adventure Party, all one word, and you can get 10% off your order. That said, they do have sales, so sometimes you can get a better percentage off. So take a look at the website, see if they've got any specials going on, but you've always got the Adventure Party coupon code in your back pocket to save a little bit. So there you go. Boy, you know, it's been a while since we've done the show. Holy crap. We are rusty. At least I'm rusty. You're doing great. Hey, if you enjoy Adventure Party...
More Brock than Rusty.
Boo. You strike me as more of a dean. Just kidding.
I can't rock the ascot.
Few can. If you enjoy Adventure Party and you'd like to do more than just subscribe, please consider becoming a partner with us. You can go to gncasts.com/support and click on the Patreon link. We have different levels. You know what? For right now, if you are willing to send $1 our way, we'll take it. Anything that you can give will help us expand and grow and keep things running on a more regular basis. We'd greatly appreciate it. Again, you can just go to gncasts.com/support. All right. Last time we got together, many moons ago, we talked about tiny epic mechs. And it's a 1 to 4 player, you know, this company, Gamelin Games, Gamelin Games is known for their tiny epic line of games. I don't believe that I picked up mechs, and I'm kind of regretting that now. But we got Tiny Epic Galaxies and Tiny Epic Western, and they're great games. Granted, this ship has sailed. They blew way past what they were asking for to get this out there, and that's just because you get high quality stuff through Gamelin Games, and the games are always fantastic. So there was probably no way in hell they were going to make their goal. But what I want to talk about this particular time here is a game called They Came From Beneath the Sea. And this is using Onyx Path's story path system, which is not unlike the storyteller system from White Wolf. Onyx Path has the rights to basically redo the classic World of Darkness lines, like Mage the Ascension, so on and so forth. They're keeping that alive. They've updated a lot of the material, and the game that I'm doing a podcast on is using the Hunters Hunted system. Basically, it's vampire, but just from the perspective of human hunters. So this game here, They Came From Beneath the Sea, is a game that is kind of taking a poke at and it's kind of an homage to 1950s science fiction. And if you've seen any 1950s science fiction movies, a lot of them are really goofy. Some of them are unintentionally cheesy at this point. At the time, they, were just kind of figuring things out. But now we find them, in some cases, pretty hilarious because they can be goofy. So they're taking that whole point of view that they're doing a take on that, and it's a game about aliens who are underneath the ocean, and they are trying to conquer the Earth. And you have the ability to play a number of different classes, like a mad scientist or a Flash Gordon type character, and you're looking to save the Earth. And it looks like it's going to be a very tongue-in-cheek kind of fun game. And I got on board with it, and I am really looking forward to giving it giving it a shot. Speaking of giving it a shot, YouTube viewers, you can see here it is. They came from beneath the sea. A number of different pledge levels. They are currently looking for 20,000. They are currently at 34,000. So this is happening. There's 10 days to go as of this point in time. So on the 23rd of January, it will be wrapped up. So I highly recommend you getting on board and giving it a shot. If you're a fan of 50s science fiction, if you're a fan, of tongue-in-cheek kind of gameplay, I think that this would be, and if you're a fan of the White Wolf Onyx Path system, the story path system, this is a game for you. What are your thoughts on that, Glenn? Would you give this a shot?
I would definitely give this a shot. It looks super fun. I like the campy stuff. I just picked up the brand new Flash Gordon RPG, so I like the campy, cheesy stuff.
Oh, who put that one out?
I don't know. It's man, I want to say it's Modifius, but I might be wrong. The thing is that I picked up so many RPGs. No, who is it?
Is that Pinnacle?
Pinnacle. Yeah, Pinnacle's the one who did it. Yes. It uses Savage Worlds.
Okay, yep. Well, there's a good system. I think that's a well. From what little I've kind of played around with it, it seems like fun. I've actually played it was a 3-part adventure in Savage Worlds, and I kind of dug it. What are your thoughts on it?
Savage Worlds, it's nifty. I buy most of my RPG stuff. I buy for just to read and to steal information to use in other games. But I might actually run this one for my monthly RPG roulette in March.
Okay.
So I think it's campy enough. It has just enough appeal where I'll get enough people who want to play it. So
nice. Excuse me.
I mean,
all right.
It beats flying blind in a rocket cycle.
Flash Gordon's alive. I love that movie. I say what you will. Anyways, enough of that. Highly recommend our Kickstarter
They
spotlight.
came from the actual thing we're talking about, not the other games.
Yes. They came from beneath the sea. Like I said, 10 days to go. A number of different levels at which you can back it at. I backed it at the $70 level. Don't tell my wife. Or you can tell her it's fine.
Messenger.
Hey, Anessa. Yeah, so there you go. It's a game that I would definitely run for my Wednesday night game group. So I think it's going to be a solid hit. So there you go.
You'll have to wear suits and hats, though, yeah.
Perhaps. A nice diving bell suit, maybe.
Captain's hat.
Captain's hat. Yep. Yeah. All right. On to our discussion of the games that we have played over the holidays. I figure that we'll go back and forth. We'll mention, I'll start with a game, and then you'll go with your. We each picked 3. I think that we've played probably a bit more than that, but these 3, I think, at least these 3 for me are solid standouts.
I didn't play much more than these 3.
Okay.
Because I was working 60 to 70 hours a week.
I bet you were working nonstop.
Yeah. Pretty close.
The Christmas holiday will definitely do that to you. So one of the games, and I mentioned it earlier, that I got to play was Codenames. Now, Codenames is, for those of you that haven't played it, it's a team game. So you divide into 2 teams. There's a red team and a blue team. And the premise is that you have, each team has a spy master, or your team kind of captain. And what their job is to look at a grid. And on this grid card that you and the other team captain or the other spy master look at shows the red and blue. There's a grid of 25 words, essentially. Excuse me. They're laid out, and on this card is a pattern of blues and reds, that those are the cards that you need to cover. You need to get your team to guess what those words are. There is a spy on the board. If something goes horribly wrong and somebody chooses that, the game ends. So what the object is you need to, depending on if you are starting the game, if you're the team that is starting, you have 7 words that need to be guessed. The other team has 6. And what you need to do is look at that pattern that you have on that card and look at the words that are laid out there and try to get them to combine as many. If you can give one word that can encompass as many of the words that you need to cover, and get your team to figure out what they are and then cover them. So like, for example, I think it was last year I played a game and we came from behind, and there were words out there that I went with the word compass, and there was like wire and magnet, and there were a couple of other things on there. And we came from behind and we won. But that's kind of due in part to, if you as the the spy master or your team captain knows the people that you're gaming with, and you have kind of a common ground of things that you've spoken about or whatever, more often than not, you can give a word and you have a higher probability that they will guess as many as you say. You know, if you say cookie 2, that means that the words that are on the board that you need to cover relate to cookies in some fashion, and there are 2 of them that you're looking to cover. So, like I said, if you have a good common background with the other people that you're playing with, it can be a little easier, but it's a 2-way street. If they have a good idea of the things that you like, that you talk about, that you're interested in, it can kind of work both ways. But what happens more often than not is watching people talk themselves out of what you're looking for. And something that you can say that's innocuous, that you're like, there's no way that they're going to miss this. And to watch them go, oh, wait a second. And it always starts with that. Wait a second. What if they mean this? And you can't give tells. You need to put on your best poker face, kind of like what we were saying about the mind. You can't give hints. You can't go, oh, or you can't make noises or anything like that. You gotta play it on the level. You gotta not give anything away. So watching that can be painful. as a spy master. And you just kind of have to grin and bear it, and either it worked out or it didn't, and then watch the disappointment in people's eyes, and they're like, "Oh, we didn't get it. We thought we had it." And then at the end of the game, you can kind of discuss your woes as to how they talk themselves out of the correct answer. It's a great game. It's not that expensive either. And like I said, there's a number of different versions of it. They have like a Marvel version. They have a number of different versions. There's a picture version. Yeah. It's become a big deal. And for my money, the classic Codenames is a game that you can get people who aren't normally game players to hop in on. I think it retails from somewhere around $20, but honest to God, the level of replayability of this game, the number of cards that you have, each card grid that each spy master has, it's double-sided. And I think that there's at least 25 or 30 cards. I don't have the exact stats on that. But and there's like a huge stack of words, and like the words are double-sided as well. The words you end up shuffling the cards. So, I mean, every game is new. And the level of replayability on Codenames is ridiculous. And that you'll get that $20 back in investment. And the game isn't that. There is a little sand timer. I think it's like a 1-minute timer if people are taking way too long to guess things, or they're just sitting there going, and they get the, what is it? The, now I can't remember what I call it. But they basically, put themselves into such a tizzy trying to.
Analysis paralysis.
Thank you. Yes, that's exactly what I was looking for. And, that's, you let it go for a little bit once, and then you have to keep it moving. But a game can take 15, 20 minutes if you're really pushing it. But it's a very fast-paced game. And the nice thing, because the cards are double-sided, you can just, flip the word cards over on the grid, and you can, just turn it around real quick and jump into another game. So I highly recommend Codenames. So what do you have?
I played Keyforge. It was fun.
All right, moving on.
Keyforge. This is a new one that came out this fall. It is a new card game made by Richard Garfield, the guy who, I don't know if you've ever heard of Magic the Gathering. He made that.
Never heard of it. Is this brand new?
Keyforge is, yes. So Keyforge, it is a collectible kind of card game, except it's more a collectible deck game, because you're going to buy your deck, and in this starting thing, there are one of 7 houses, if I remember correctly. 7 houses. I think it's 7 houses. Your deck will have 3 of those houses in it. You can never change your deck. Well, the cards in your deck are the cards in your deck. There's no modifying. There's no deck building. So unlike Magic, you are not chasing cards. If you don't like your deck, spend $10 and buy a new deck. That's what a deck costs, $10. To play the game, oh man, this game, I'm absolutely in love with this game right now, because I like playing Magic, but I hate deck building. I mean, I hate it more than I hate painting minis. I absolutely loathe deck building. And this eliminates that. Now, if you like playing the meta and, finding all the best combinations, then fine, play Magic. But if you want to try something different, this is great. And sealed format, it's awesome, because basically you open your deck, you don't even know what's in it. Shuffle it up, play, and you find these combinations. And your deck might suck. Your deck might be great. It might be great against some other decks. It might suck against some decks. But it's just super cool, because every deck's unique. There are no 2 decks that are the same. I mean, you may have some of the same cards, but I might have House Brobnar, Logos, and Dis in mind. You might also have Dis, and we might have a couple of the same Dis cards, but our combinations of cards in our decks are different. Even if we both have the same 3 houses, our combination of cards are going to be different. There are an estimated 104 quadrillion possible deck combinations. So a few more than they'll ever get to print. So like I said, every deck's unique. And part of the fun is just finding these combinations in the deck that you have. Finding out ways that some houses work really well together. Finding out specific combinations that you get that just kind of pop up. It's like, oh, I didn't think about that. And you play these decks, it's just turning out to be so much fun. And I'm absolutely in love with the game. And just this whole concept of it's unique. No one else has my deck. The other fun thing is that because every deck is unique, the names are all computer generated. So there are some that they've already had to, because there's an app you can register your deck in, and some have been banned because you have some combinations of words that don't work well that they didn't think about. So there have been some. Then some of these have been proven to true. Some are maybe fabricated, but I mean, you have like Titan Flayer, the farmer of racism.
Oh Jesus.
I think there was one that was like something of the white power.
Oh, Jesus.
And some of those it's General Bone Rider Colt. But you also just get some like what are some of the funny ones I read online? I'm trying to find them. Oh yes, the peasant that synthesizes squid. The phony of democracy. Mirror Kid, the shipbreaker of clowns. The magnanimous surgeon. Rick Zorka of the arena. Mrs. Batwing Freeze. I mean, just these. Kalel, fishy passage archivist. She that punches elephants. The boy who basically headbutts heaven. And again, I'm not sure how many of these are actually 100% true, but I've seen some. I mean, I've seen some fun ones just in the people I've played with. And it's just that's part of the fun too. Is when you have that deck, you gotta say the name of your deck when you're playing someone. It's part of the fun. I didn't even talk about how the best parts about play is that. So in Magic, those of you who played Magic and most card games, is all these cards have a cost to cast. In Magic, you have to have. I need to have 3 black mana and 2 other mana to cast this vampire to bring him on the field. You don't have that in this game. On your turn, you pick a house. So I'm going to say, I'm picking House Dis for this turn. You can then play every Dis card in your hand. That has no cost. You have said you're playing House Dis. You can play every House Dis card in your hand. You can't play any other cards. And the only cards you can use that are on your battlefield, as far as your creatures and your artifacts and stuff go, are from that house. So if I call House Dis, I can only use creatures from House Dis. I can use artifacts from House Dis. And I can play cards from House Dis. But there's no casting cost to anything. There's no activation costs. And you can't kill your opponent. It's called Keyforge. You win by being the first person to forge 3 keys. You do that by collecting Amber, whatever they want to call it. Aether, I forget which they call it. It's an AE something. And you do this. There's some cards that just simply give it to you. You can steal it from your opponents. And your creatures can either fight other creatures, or they can do what's called reaping. And when they reap, they collect Amber for you that you can then use to forge these keys. And the cool thing with combat is that it's very simple. It's my creature has a power, which is how much health he has and how much damage he does, and he may or may not have armor. I say my bad penny is being attacked by your Snufflegator. Those are actual. Snufflegator is a creature in the game. So your Snufflegator attacks by Bad Penny. It does its damage. Penny does her damage to the Snufflegator. And then, unlike Magic, damage does not go away. It carries over. So it does not heal at the end of the round. So your creatures can get weaker and weaker and more, closer to death. There's tons of cards that will board wipe, and some of the really powerful cards end up giving you what are called chains. Chains are negative on your draw. So if you have one chain, that means for the next turn you're drawing one less card. If you have 3 chains, it means for the next 3 turns you're drawing one less card. And you can go really high, because one of the ways to play is, we just did a sealed tournament where each person opens a brand new deck. You play your opponent. Mark down who won. Swap decks. Play again. Mark who won. And then the third round, you bid chains as a handicap to see which deck you get to play. Because if there was one deck that was like really, really good, or just really, really owned a particular, the other deck, you might say, I want to play this one the final round because I want to win the round. So I might bid a chain. And then you come back and bid 2 and 3. And with the tournament we just ran, someone got as high as bidding 15 chains, which meant that on the first round, they're drawing 3 less cards. And you only get 6 in your hand. So you always draw up to 6 at the end of the turn, but 3 less. 3 cards is not much, because there's chances that you'll only be able to have might only have 1 card from each house. So now your turn, it's like I'm playing this 1 card. But some decks are they have a good combination of cards that work out. In that case, that deck, she took 15 chains and she still won.
Oh, wow.
So, because the deck was just that much better. But it's all about, you've got to remember, it's a thing that a lot of people who are new to the game, who have played other deck building games, they focus too much on building up like their rows of troops and fighting their opponent's creatures and killing their opponent's creatures, and they forget all about collecting the embers so they can forge the keys. It's all about the cones. The keys. Forge those keys and you win the game. Doesn't matter how many of your opponent's creatures you killed or how many of your creatures die. Forge those keys and do it as quick as you can. It's if you've got garbage cards in your hand that you don't want. So I don't want to play any of these discards, but there's 4 of them in my hand and they all suck. Then you declare house dis, and you can just discard those 4 cards and draw 4 new ones for your next turn. Yeah, you wasted a turn, but you got those 4 crappy cards out of your hand. And you get 4 new ones. So unlike Magic, you get that bad draw. You're stuck with that hand. You can't just discard and draw new ones. But in this game, you can discard stuff as well. And then it's all about managing, going through that deck. Your deck's only 37 cards, and if you go all the way through it, you reshuffle it. So it's not like you don't have to worry about dying because your deck ran out. You just reshuffle your deck. So, but yeah, I'm absolutely loving this game. I'm waiting to see where it goes, but just super fun.
Nice. All right. My second game is Star Trek Adventures. This has been our Wednesday night game for the past month. And it's a Modifius game, and it's a 2d20 system, which I'm actually kind of digging. If you basically you get a difficulty, and you get a you start with 2 dice. If you have more successes than you need, you can put a die away to be used for another roll. Say you need more successes than you have available in d20s, you can pull another d20 to help you out. And your target is always going to be equal to or less than your, let's say your, I'm trying to think of 2. It's kind of like, it reminds me of White Wolf's attributes and abilities, combining one of the 2. It's kind of that same thing. It's really quick. It's really quick paced. And I like the fact that there's not a ton of math involved. And, you look at And I enjoy Hero as much as the next person, but when you need a program to build your character so it can do all the math for you, that's next level stuff. If you're, just starting out, this is a great system to work in. And the nice thing too is that it's got excuse me, it reminded me a lot of like AD&D, having the random tables to roll from to make your character. They've got that. So Anessa has a very hard time just creating a character out of nothing. And when she was given the option to just roll up her character, she's like, yeah. And she, built the character pretty quickly. And we got into the game, and it was a lot of fun. Looking at, trying to pull this up here. They actually do have. Some of us use the website to build our characters, which was kind of nice. The core rule book retails at about $58. Now, that said, they've got a lot of support material for this, and there's a number of communities out there that like share homebrewed excuse me, adventures, modules, if you want to call them that. There's a lot of support for this, and there's obviously a lot of Star Trek fans. And the books do cover classic Trek, next gen, so on and so forth. So, I mean, if you want to do a DS9 adventure, you can do that. Excuse me. Good Lord.
I'm going to say, if you are new to role-playing, they just released a great starter set for this as well.
Oh, yes. Yes, I did see that. And that's 26, but that'll get you up and running.
Yep.
So there's not much more that I can say about this. It's like, if you like Star Trek and you want to get into a game that's not heavy in math, and that can be a lot of fun, this is a great system. It's a great system. So I highly recommend it. All right. What's your next pick?
We'll stay on the RPG train, and I have Overlight. This is a new one that came out from Renegade Publishing, and it's actually one of the creators is another store owner that I know, Paul Butler, and I feel bad because I always forget the other guy's name because I don't know him like I know Paul, and I don't know Paul like super well, but I know him well enough that
George Holland.
George Holland, thank you. I always forget his name, and I feel so bad about it because it was a group effort. I don't want to shortchange George for the work he did, because this game is so cool. It's what they call they've coined the phrase Kaleidoscope Fantasy, because a lot of fantasy is all it's very dark, it's very brooding, it's very angsty, it's everything is just grim dark, grim
Yeah.
Everything's bad, and this is different. The world, first of all, the world building is just phenomenal. The world is made up of what they call shards. They're giant floating islands that float in the sky. Above you is the overlight, the never-setting sun, or just light. It's not even a sun; it's just the light that's always there. And beneath is a never-ending sea. And these shards kind of float around, and some shards have darkness because other shards will pass over them, blocking out the overlight. And each shard is unique in both the races that live there as well as their landscape. Because you have, and I'm totally blanking on the freaking names right now, and I don't know what my book is. Book would help, but like the top shard, you have these giant sentient, they're like millipedes or centipedes. You've got the second shard has humans, these human monks, and then these ape-like beings, and they have kind of they form like a lifelong bond, each ape and these monks. And you've got the human the human level, that's all humans. It's just basically one giant city, and that's the middle shard, which everyone's kind of there together, and that's where everyone kind of meets because it's right in the center. And just so much about it is so cool. You play as Skyborn, and the Skyborn are people who are a bit different. You don't have the standard attributes of strength, intelligence, and that. You have virtues. So you have wisdom, compassion, might. Those are your virtues that you have. And each shard is associated with a different virtue. And as a Skyborn, you're different from the normal. So if the shard you come from, the main virtue is might, as a Skyborn, from that shard, your primary virtue might be wisdom. It's being different. And being Skyborn means you can channel the chroma, which is basically the power of light, the light. And the chroma are like magical abilities you can do. And just so much of it is just, it's a super clean and just well-flowing system. You're always rolling 7 dice. You're rolling 3 dice for your skill, 3 dice for your virtue, and then a D4, which is your spirit die. And it's all based on how many successes you get. Every success you get, every 2 successes you get, if you get 2, you succeed. Every even number of successes means you succeeded that much better. This game focuses a lot more on the telling of stories than it is just the go out and fight stuff. Combat is super streamlined. I roll my dice. Did I succeed? Yes. That means I hit somebody. And there's no factor in armor. Well, your armor absorbs this much. How much damage my weapon do? Weapons just do damage, period. I hit you, I do damage. There's no, well, this dagger does a D1D4, this sword does a D8. Nope. Weapons just do damage, period. It's super clean. The system's great. The setting is phenomenal. It has some similarities. I think part of what draws me to it is that there's some similarities to things that I have thought about doing, and some things that I've kind of done a little bit with Mistrunner. There's some similarities in there a little bit, and it's just such a nifty and fun system to play in, such a fun world to play in, and I can't wait to see where it goes next.
Nice. Yeah, I've been taking a look at their site, and yeah, it is bright and beautiful, and
yeah, the art is incredible.
Yeah, I would be very interested in giving that a try. Huh. All right. Well, thanks for that one.
Absolutely.
And my third and final is, and I talked about it a little bit earlier, is the Onyx Path 20th anniversary classic White Wolf system. Straight D10 system. And it the first game system that I played after I had learned that there was more than just D&D, really. I played Rollmaster, Iron Crown Enterprises Rollmaster back in the day, but I mean, I had done fantasy role-playing, and I quickly moved from Rollmaster to Dungeons and Dragons. And it's the first time that I was really intrigued by a world and a system that was outside of D&D. And obviously, as companies move forward in time, they need to freshen things up, and they made changes and kind of ended the first World of Darkness, and then they redid it. And I wasn't too keen on the redo. It didn't feel, I'm going to sound old. It just didn't feel the same. Some of the tweaks, some of the changes they made, it didn't feel fun for me. So when I do White Wolf, I stick to the old stuff. And right now I'm doing Dirgewood, which is my Wild West Hunters Hunted campaign using the Onyx Path system. And it's a lot of fun. It's a system that I can easily go back to it's nice that it's D10s. I tell you how many successes you need. You add up between your attributes and abilities, how many dice that you get to roll. You roll that, you have a target number, and then you tell me how many you got equal to or above, and we move on. So it's it's a streamlined system, which I truly appreciate. And I'm playing with 6 people. 2 are entirely new to gaming altogether. They have never gamed before in their lives. So, a D10 system like that is great for them. I've got 2 intermediates and I've got 2 veterans of this system. So, it's a well-rounded game, and it's a combat is pretty streamlined. And I try not to make it too combat heavy. I kind of focus more on role play more than anything else. But that's just my style. Anyways, Onyx Path's 20th anniversary edition of I'm using Hunter's Hunted, which is thankfully it's got the setting. You still need the vampire core rule book for everything to kind of integrate together. But I highly recommend it. So what's your third and final? And I can see it on the list, and I love this game.
My final is one of my favorite games of all time. I play it as often as I can, and that's Mysterium. I believe I've even reviewed it for the podcast before.
Yes.
And yeah, it's what I call Clue done right. It's such a good game of letting you be creative and using deduction and all that stuff, and it's cooperative. I like cooperative games a lot. I've been liking them more and more. But in this one of you plays as a ghost of someone who was murdered, and the rest of the players are all mediums and psychics who have to solve the crime. But this ghost, like most ghosts, can't talk. They can only send images and visions to the psychics that are going to try to get you to guess who the killer is and how they did it and where they did it. And the trick is that each psychic has a different person they have to guess as theirs. And they each have a different location they have to guess as theirs. And then they each have a different murder weapon they have to guess as theirs. Or if you're playing with the madness, the expansion you use have madnesses instead of weapons, or you play crazy like we did, and you play with all 4. So you have 4 things to figure out. And you only have 7 turns to do it.
Yeah.
And each turn, the ghost is going to get a hand of cards that are pictures. And they're going to give you, the ghost is going to hand each player these clues to get you to guess. So the first round, you're guessing which person is yours. And I'm going to hand you, if I'm the ghost, I'm going to hand you clues. And sometimes it's super easy. If I need you to guess the nun, and I happen to have a card with angels and a cross on it, that should be pretty damn easy.
Yep.
But odds are, I'm not going to have that card in my hand at this time. Yep. I'll have it when I don't need it. So instead, I might go, oh man, okay. Well, you know what? I have these 2 cards here that have a lot of black and white. And hopefully Brad associates the black and white with the nun's habit and her dress. And he says, oh, all this black and white must mean the nun. That's what you hope will happen. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Yep. And all the psychics can help each other. So you're all helping each other out, which is good and bad.
And bad, yeah.
There was a game I was playing where I needed, if I remember right, it was Shanna, needed to guess the kitchen as her location. And I had nothing with food on it. There's like a third of the deck has cards with food on it, and I had none of those. I had nothing with food. I'm like, how do I get her to guess kitchen? I had a card with the Eiffel Tower. So I'm like, all right. Hopefully she puts together Eiffel Tower, France, with cuisine. French cooking. Boom. See if she gets this. I give her the card. And she instantly goes, oh, it's Eiffel Tower. Oh, I bet he's trying to get me to guess the kitchen because of French cooking. And then all the other psychics talk her out of it.
Yep.
And as the ghost, you just sit there without reacting while
Yep.
inside you're going, no, no, no. All of you shut the fuck up. You're wrong. She was right. Stop talking, stop talking, stop talking, stop talking, stop talking. But you can't do that.
Yeah.
Inside your head. And they convinced her instead that, well, we think it's the bathroom because it looks like French decor. I'm like, I don't know what that means. It's a clawfoot tub. I didn't know that clawfoot tubs were particularly French decor. So she was wrong that turn. But then there's the other thing is that you that have, as psychics, you are trying to guess if people are right or not. And you have your divination, is that what it's called? I always forget what it's called. I know, but you have these little tokens that you're going to put. If you have 3 of each, 3 yes and 3 no. If you think someone's right, you can basically bet on their answer to see if they're right or wrong. And if they're right and you put right on it, you get a different divination point. If you're wrong, you get nothing, except you lose your token. If you're right because they were wrong and you said they were wrong, you get a divination point. The divination points are important because at the end of the game, if you make it there where everyone has guessed their trio, or in our case, quad of cards, you have one final round where the ghost can give you a series of clues based on how high your divination score is. The higher it is, the more final clues you get to see. And to make the final round even harder, in the regular game, your first thing you're doing is people. Then it's location, then it's thing. That's easy. Final round, these are mixed up. You don't know which cards for which one. And to make it even harder, you can't help each other. Because some of you have different levels of divination. So you're going to go, okay, who gets to see one card? All right, you're going to hand out that one card. Anyone who only gets to see one card because of the divination score has to vote. And they do it secretly by putting a token in their hand of which group they think it is. And then those get to see 2 cards, get to see the second one. And then those who get to see 3 get to see all 3 cards. Or in our case, it was 4. And that really can change things up. Because when someone can see all 3 cards, there's some cards that make it super obvious what you're talking about. But if that's not the first card drawn, because it's random, those people who see one card are probably going to vote wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not a majority, you fail, and the ghost has to continue suffering on for another year until you can try again.
Yep.
So I love Mysterium so much.
It is a very fun and potentially very frustrating game. But well worth playing. Well worth it. And you're right. The cooperative aspect is nice. Because more often than not, we play games to win, and it's always kind of a welcomed relief to play something a little bit different. That said, sometimes cooperative doesn't always work the way you hope. So just like with code names or Mysterium, it just doesn't always work out for the best. But you give it a shot and hope for the best. So. Yeah, it's been a good holiday season, and it's been nice to be able to play games with friends. And these are the 6 games that we got to play that we really enjoyed while we were gone, and that was Codenames, Keyforge, Star Trek Adventures, Overlight, the Onyx Path 20th Anniversary Edition of Classic White Wolf. We'll just go with that by Onyx Path. And Mysterium.
Mm-hmm.
So, on that note, I think we're going to wrap everything up. If you would like to chat with the hosts or listen to or other listeners of this Galactic Netcast 24 hours a day, you can go to gncasts.com/signup. We'll add you to our Slack team, so you'll have the ability to interact with us in real time. Again, you can go to gncasts.com/signup. For more on this podcast, including show notes, contact info, and more, you can go to gncasts.com/adventure. And if you have any questions or comments about anything that you heard on this particular episode, you can email adventure@gncasts.com. You can leave a voicemail or text message by calling 805-328-3966. Again, 805-328-3966. Or you can go to gncasts.com/contact, and we do read, listen to, and appreciate any and all feedback you send our way. You can also subscribe to this Galactic Netcast by going to gncasts.com/subscribe, or you can search iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, or anywhere podcasts are offered. And last but not least, I would like to thank Mark Wooldridge, of Central Battery Music Works for our theme music.
Yay, Mark.
Man's Woodworking Weekend is coming up in 3 weeks, and I get to hang out with Mark. I'm looking forward to it.
3 weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks. And last but certainly not least, thank you, Glenn, for hanging out with us. And where can people find out more about you and Mist Runner and your other game?
Demon Eater? Apocalypse.
There you go.
Which one? Art? Which one I'm working on?
Which one? See, you're a man who does many things.
Really, your best thing is if you can find me on Facebook, you can find some of my stuff there with Mist Runner and Demon Eater and Apocalypse How. But the best way to stay in touch with me is through my Twitter, which is @GuyInABunker. You can check out my old videos on YouTube with Guy in a Bunker Productions. And that's about it. I haven't been doing a lot with the game stuff lately just because I just got done with retail holiday season. But I'm on vacation in 3 weeks.
Nice.
So we'll see if I can get some work done over that.
There you go. You get to rest and recharge. That does not suck, sir. That does
all
not
before
suck.
going to Toy Fair in New York.
Oh, Lord, yeah. Oof.
That's in 5 weeks.
And so the season begins anew.
Yes.
All right. Thanks to everybody who joined us for this Adventure Party episode. Wow, I haven't done this outro in a while. May your characters never die and your adventures always be epic. Thank you and good night.